Alright, if you're the proud owner of a Fadal machining center, this is a 4020A. This is a model year 2000, and it was refurbished, I guess it was about 2010, 2012. But the one thing that needs to be addressed right now is the monitor. This is a CRT monitor, and when it gets a little chilly in this shop, this thing takes forever to boot up. And time is money, so what we're going to do today is we're going to swap out the monitor on this thing. Not the entire pendant, of course, just the CRT. And we're going to trade over to a flat screen LCD. And I'm really looking forward to the performance of this. I understand that it's night and day difference. Now, if you're thinking about doing this to your machine, if you need to do this to your machine, there are a couple things to consider. What you want to find out is the diagonal size of your screen and the inside, the bezel size of your screen. They're going to be different. This particular machine, this 4020A, takes a 14-inch screen with a 12.5 inside the bezel, and some of the other ones are 11, 10.5 or smaller. So make sure you get the right one. The other thing you need to consider when selecting the one that you want to purchase is the connections to the existing electronics on your machine. This one is a 4-pin plug and a 10-pin connector. Okay, 4 pins and 10 pins. They are not all set up this way. We're going to pull this monster out right here and replace it with the new setup. This is the 4-pin plug here that we're going to adapt to the new board, and this is the 10-pin connector that's going to bring it all together. Now, once you look at this thing, once you look at it from the inside and from the front, you're going to see that there's no noticeable hardware about how this thing is connected. It is surprisingly simple to take this out. From underneath, you have the 2 screws right here. That gives you your forward and reverse adjustment, and as far as centering is concerned, your height adjustment is achieved by the shelf height itself. So it is very adjustable to put the center of the CRT or the LCD screen right in the bezel opening. The one thing that's immediately apparent, the new bezel is nice and rectangular and beautifully suited to the new flat screen. Unfortunately, there are some large radiuses in the corners of the existing opening. And there is no way that the new bezel is going to fit in this opening without filing the daylights out of it. And we'll see if I'm up for that when I pull this out. One thing that you do not want to do is introduce a bunch of metal filings down into the electronic circuitry that's going to remain. And that is this board right here, right directly under the opening. So this board and that board will remain. This one comes out with the unit. I'll set this camera up in a different configuration. I will undo those 2 clips and those 2 screws. And if my planet's lined up, this unit should pop right out like a drawer. Let's find out. Okay, using only a Phillips head screwdriver, remove the 2 screws from the bottom of the shelf. Remove the 4-pin connector and pass it through the opening in the side of the housing if there is one. If the 10-pin connector is also passed through an opening, pull that gently, remove that, get everything out of the way. Now, make sure that the machine is powered down while you're doing this, and you're not sure of exactly what you're touching, what's your capacitor, what is still charged. Rest assured, don't touch anything until you check with the technician, and anything that says high voltage on it, keep your fingers out of the way. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. This will slide right out now. Make sure you don't hook any wires on the way out. Keep everything clear. And I'm not sure what the weight's going to be, so test it before you remove it. There you go. 2 screws, 2 clips, and out it comes. That doesn't get much easier than that. Right now I'm just going to clean off any debris from the years of exposure to the coolant, and I'm going to test fit the front bezel, see how far out it actually is, and come up with a plan to stick the new one in. Some of the wire retention clips on the side, if anything is in the way, naturally you're going to have to pull it and move it over. but I'm hoping that the center-to-center distances of the shelf is correct for the new monitor to slide right in. So we're going to do that off camera. We'll put the camera back on as soon as I have it pushed in. Okay, I'm looking at the slots in the shelf versus the holes in the new chassis, and right here is about the maximum forward projection I can get on this. Sitting about 1/4 of an inch behind the face of the panel. If I were to use the old bezel, we're going to fall a little bit shy of making contact with it. And the new bezel supplied with the unit, although it's an absolutely beautiful bezel, there is no way that that's going in there, and I really wish it would, but it's not going to. Not unless I open the face of this up. Not impossible, just not preferable. Close up the back, check for rear clearance. Not a problem there. Okay, as much as I would like to say this is plug and play, this is not going to be plug and play. I may have to square off the corners of this bezel. If I do that, I will tape it off from behind or put a box in there with a shop vac on it, pull the debris out so it doesn't hit the electronics. And since there's nothing else connected to the shelf, it's easy enough to pop the shelf out and slot the holes so that we can slide the monitor farther forward. Let's do it. You can see the gap that will be present if you use the screw location as is. That is just a little beyond acceptable in my book. I don't want anything flying in here. And this is what I'm talking about underneath. You can see the screw holes are as far forward as they're going to go. So without this slot being a little bit longer, there's no way you're going to push that monitor up against the face of this panel. It's not going to happen. These slots here are going to have to be moved down. I would say about 3/8 of an inch. And it's no big deal. We're going to unloosen those nuts. We're going to take this shelf out and have at it. I'm going to put a piece of tape underneath as a vertical height marker so that when I return this shelf, I can put it back in right where I want it to be. Do that off camera. Okay, a 1/2 inch longer will do it. Gonna flip the plate around. I put black marks on the plate because when I spin it around, I want to make sure I slot them in the right direction. I do have a rotary table in the way, so I can't hold it the exact same way on this side. Better to be safe than sorry, right? And side number 2. Gonna eyeball the slot, 500 from contact. Off we go. Okay, both slots are now a 1/2 inch longer. When I put it back in, I will put it back in 3/16 of an inch higher to center the new screen. As far as the front bezel is concerned, I have made the decision to utilize the bezel from the CRT, and you can see that there is an elevated molded rib on that conformed to the shape of the old monitor. What I need to do is I need to take it down to a projection no more than the thickness of the front metal panel. So I'm going to double stick tape this to a piece of aluminum, take it over to my mill, and just cut that down by eye. You could also do it with a knife, I guess, if you had to, die grinder, file, whatever you feel confident with. But I'm looking for a projection of this rib right here to be no more than this thickness right here, and that should give me a nice clean fit. That's going to be a little easier to do than sawing out the face panel. I do not think I'm going to lose any visibility or resolution, and it'll look pretty good when it's done. And when you put this back on, the way it came off, this was a very thin industrial two-sided tape, ran all the way around, and that's the way I'll do it when I return it to fixed position. Alright, I may film that, maybe not. Stick around. Okay, we're going to cut the rib off the bezel. We're going to do it one side at a time. You use a 2-flute cutter to do this, cutting plastic. And try to support as much of it as you can so it doesn't pull up into your cutter. And the place where you have to be careful out here is on the ends, because it's going to have a tendency to want to lift. I am going to register the cutter on the flat section that will be ultimately against the face of the panel, and I'm going to come up about 60 thou with the cutter, and that will be my baseline for all the cuts. I'll take a look at it after it's done. Okay, the rib height has been reduced to 0.75 above the back contact surface. I figure that gives me a little bit of projection inside the cabinet and some allowance for the thickness of the tape that I'm going to use. And for those of you that are going to say, what happened in the center? Well, that is the original contour, and that doesn't clean up when you cut it. So you're going to have the exact same thing on the opposite side. Right there. You can see how it tapers off. Alright, that is an 0.75 rib all the way around. Let's take it over to the machine, make things happen. Okay, now the only thing to be concerned about is this connector in the very top for the light. You're going to have to sweep underneath it with the new panel. And then we'll take the camera around in front and we'll check out the alignment with the shelf raised up. I will also show you how far I raised it. Alright, the side-to-side position is dictated now by the slots underneath. I'm going to use the same screws that they sent with it to put it back in. Nice big fender washers on the screws so that the screws don't distort the slot. Make sure that if you change the height of your shelf, that your shelf is also still square to the face panel if you want a nice clean gap around the new screen. I'm pretty pleased with that. Let's say we snug it up right where it is, put the electrics to it. After changing the slots, the shelf is about 3/16 of an inch higher. Big screws underneath. Alignment in the front is nice and tight all the way around, which is what I was looking for. I don't have a shower of chips bouncing off the front of this thing, but I don't want any gaps either. That looks pretty good even without a trim ring on it. You gotta see it, right? There we go. Not bad. some of the double-sided tape inside the new monitor. The glass over the LCD is visible behind the glass inside the trim ring. But the trim ring fits nice and snug all the way around. I like it. Okay, let's plug it in. Okay, no install is complete without showing how the electrics go back together. The original harness, I'm going to bring it back in, sneak it in from the side. And the plug does have two D plugs on one side, two D posts or poles or whatever. Make sure that you clock them correctly with the new one. That's a good sign. The 10-pin connector is the same clocking as the other side. Let's see if we can find out what we do with that connector. There we go. Bring it back to the side like the original. Make sure that your locking side of your clip is correctly placed. And down it goes. Sit down until it clicks. There you go. And that should be all it takes. That is not a big deal to do this. But rest assured, this monitor may be small, but it's going to set you back the size of a big screen TV for your house, so get ready for a little pinch in the wallet. I'm going to put the double-sided tape back on the bezel. Let's go around the front of this machine, stick the bezel on, power it up, and hopefully we get some characters on the screen. That would be the end of a perfect project. Alright, as with any new monitor, you're going to have to adjust the contrast, the brightness, the size, the position, etc. There are instructions that should come with the unit that you purchase, and the controls to do this are on the back of the screen, so it's inside the panel. I'm going to put the power to it. This is the very first time we're going to power this up, and historically this machine has been taking upwards of an hour with a heat lamp to get this monitor to come on. So if there's any sign of life, it's a definite improvement. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah. Beautiful. Nothing like a machine actually coming on when you want it to. That is money well spent. I like it. Okay. That's all it takes. Not a big deal.